giving everybody full time. What does your time look like?
Yeah, we got about the same. I think you may have a, let's see if you have a quorum, Mr. Chairman. I see Ms. McGreevy. I see Bridget. I see Bob. Are there any other board members on besides the three names I just mentioned?
I'm on by phone, Mr.
Okay, Mr. Perez is on, so you have a quorum then.
Good morning.
Okay, Mr. Maven.
Good morning. Today is April the 8th, 2021. The Furnace and Construction Board meeting will come to order. At this time, we will have a roll call. My name is Raymond Malone, and I'm chairman of the board. If you would speak your name clearly and the organization that you're representing, please. Thank you. Roll call.
Bob Lohman representing the subcontractors.
Welcome, Bob.
Neighborhood Minority Contractors Association.
Welcome, Joseph.
McGreevy, NAWIC, WCOE.
Welcome, McGreevy.
Thank you.
Good morning, Matthew Huft.
Morning, Scott Miller from Huft as well.
Bridget Williams representing the heavies.
Good morning, Bridget.
Good morning.
Gabe Perez representing Hispanic Contractor.
Good morning, Gabe. Look like we have, if I'm not correct, 6 board members.
That's correct.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to ask you at this time if you would review over the last March meeting minutes. I'll entertain any corrections. If there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion for acceptance of the minutes as written.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve minutes as written.
Okay, once again, I'm sorry, thank you, Gabe. But once again, I'm asking everyone when you either have a motion or perform a vote, if you would state your name, please.
I apologize.
Sure, no problem.
Gabe Perez, Hispanic Contractors, move to accept minutes of last month's meeting.
The minutes has been approved to accept the minutes as written, and is there a second?
Bob Lohman, second.
Minutes have been approved and seconded by Bob Lohman. All in favor by name?
Lohman,
Aye.
Maven,
Aye.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez,
Aye.
and I'm sorry, Ms. Williams, do you vote on this one since Mr. DeSwani is not here?
Williams, aye.
I have 5 ayes.
5 ayes. Are there any nays? There are no nays, no abstains. Ayes have it. Vote of 5. Thank you for approval of the minutes. At this time, we're going to turn the projects for review over to the Human Relations Department at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if you can see your screen, but Mr. DeSwani has joined as well.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ed. We have just, Ed, for where we are at, we just approved the minutes. We're getting ready to go into the project.
Very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the first project is from the Water Service Department. Its estimated cost of the project is $5,572,000. It is a water main replacement from Booth to Willow Avenue, East 28th Terrace to East 50th Terrace. The project number is 8000216. The department had recommended a goal of 12 and 7. HRD has reviewed and recommended a goal of 13 and 7. Is there Melanie Jolette from the Water Service Department here to explain the project.
Sure. Yeah, this is Melanie Jolett with Kansas City Water. Thank you. This is a project. It's part of our water main replacement program. So it's one of our typical water main replacement program. I think it's about almost 20,000 feet of 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, and 12-inch mains throughout a couple of segments over here. Looking at it, our total cost estimate, I think, was about $5.5 million for the project. And so we were looking DDE, PE, we thought we could get some concrete work completed out of there. And then I think we identified the pre-construction photos, some construction staking, traffic control, some of the pipe installation, and then some of the restoration, the seating and sodding, and the record drawings for WBE firms. And if you have questions, take those.
Okay, before HRD gets started, I just want to make sure that I understand these projects take place over 6 different locations. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
All right. Thank you for the clarification. HRD?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, pretty much seen the project in the same light as the department did. The only other segmentation, a little bit different from theirs, is that we are recommending the traffic control for on the MBE side, but everything else pretty much lined up on the WB side as well as on the M, except for the traffic control. Historically, as you know, there have been lots of these types of water main replacement throughout the city. This one of the ones we identified was Target Green West. It had a budget of $2.5 million. The goals were set on that one at 15 and 7. The CUP came back at 17 and 8. They achieved 17 and 8. The prime was Kissick Construction. That project closed in 2018. They obtained participation in traffic control, fuel, oil distribution, concrete, sodding, and seeding. Similar project, Blue Nile Contractor. This was project WSD 1264. The goals were set on that one at 13 and 6. They ended up achieving 19 and 9. Participation in the areas of concrete, sodding, seeding, and hauling. This was back in 2018, closed in 2019, I'm sorry. And then Target Green East, $4.1 million project. Goals were set at 17 and 8. The CUP came at 17 and 8. They finally achieved 24. Prime was Kissick Construction. They obtained participation in paving, hauling, traffic control, fuel, as well as sodding and seeding. So there was good utilization in the areas that we've identified in this current recommendation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yelder. Board questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just
Yes,
have to say, I'm just a little surprised at the at part of Mr. Yelder's report as to what the original goals were set for those projects. It just seems to me that historically what we have done is not set goals that high on those projects. So I'm just a little taken aback with some of the numbers he just finished reciting. But I mean, if it is what it is, I mean, so be it. But I don't know. I just and just bringing the conversation around to this project, I'm seeing the asphalt paving, for example, being split up with apparently the prime contractor retaining some close to $700,000 of the asphalt paving, where I don't know, I would see them probably just doing the whole thing in one fell swoop to a contractor rather than splitting it up. But and that's always been the issue, I think, in looking at these projects in terms of how HRD tends to approach them. In my mind, it's always, what would a general contractor do in terms of being able to manage this project, get it done within his or her bid, and deliver it within the assigned period of time. And some of these things just kind of don't make sense to me, but it's just a general comment.
Well, this is
HRD, would you like to
I've got
address?
Excuse me.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
I've got
Joseph.
a simpler question about the asphalt. Do we have any MBE asphalt suppliers, to your knowledge, that have done $689,000 worth of asphalt on a project?
Well, Mr. Maven, usually we have like Little Joe, Thorne and Son. They have, done significant work on these types of projects in the past. And the one that we did identify in this analysis was $4.1 million. And like I said, the cut came in at 17 and 8 from the prime contractor. They ended up achieving 24 and 5. And they had participation in paving, hauling, traffic control, sodding and seeding and concrete. So the same scopes that we've kind of identified here in this this recommendation are some of the same areas that they got participation in. I see the
Maybe
department.
again, but my concern is, Tinnock, Thorne, Little Joe's. I guess Tinnock can be counted as a minority or as a woman, but are there other minority companies that are not run by females that, to your knowledge, have done this? I'm trying to get an idea of capability for minorities in this area.
Well, you're right. Tinnock definitely is one of the firms that are both M and WBE. So they have they could be utilized on either side of the agenda if the contractors so choose. But other than Tinnock and Thorne, Little Joe, Thorne and Son, right now, Mr. Maven, I can't think of anybody else. They are the usually our main ones that we see on these paving type of contracts. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Lohman. I'd like to ask a question.
Sure, Bob. Go right ahead, Bob Bowman.
Or actually, kind of make an observation, because when we look at this is kind of in support of what Mr. DeSwanier talked about. If we looked at the contract utilization plans for March of 2021, there's probably 4 or 5 water main replacement jobs, and they're all at 10 and 6 and 10 and 7. So it seems to me that these numbers are a little bit off from the scope of work and the approvals that we've done in the past.
Okay. Mr. Yo, would you like to address those? Again, I guess you're HRD, I guess you're going by not just the cut, but what was accomplished after the job was brought in. It appears we're looking at what the gentlemen are looking at what they originally bidded on these projects.
Right. So, as Mr. Lohman is mentioned, so the on these here, the Target Green West, the water main replacement. I'm not sure why there's all these different scopes are included in here. Maybe the department can answer in terms of why there are more scopes on some of these than some of the other ones. But asphalt paving, it appears that they're anticipating at least that there's going to be more paving done on this job than probably on some of the other ones that you're going to see in your upcoming projects review. And yes, we've set goals of 10 and 6, and those have been achieved. And as we get, and some of them have been achieved at 10 and 6, and some have even been a little bit more than 10 and 6. But I don't believe any of them have been more than the 13 and 7 achieved that we're talking about here on a regular basis.
Well, and my suspicion is the only time they would have exceeded 10 and 6 is if the prime was either a minority or a women business enterprise that was able to claim participation based on that.
Can I speak? This is Reza from Water Service Department. I would like to talk if I can.
Yes, Reza.
Okay, those 2 projects that Mr. Yelder mentioning, if you look at their name, is a green infrastructure. It's not a water main relocation. And in green infrastructure, there's a lots of component. They could have divided between MBE and WBE. That's the reason, maybe that's the numbers in there, 17 and 8. So that's what I think. But from my experience from the past, and Bob knows, and other ones they have experience, it was 10 and 6. I agree with Bob. This is just my opinion and experience. I'm saying I'm not interfering with any recommendation, just from my past experience I'm talking about. So I think it was 10 and 7 in the past.
Okay.
This is Maben with a point of clarification. I asked about the asphalt because if TNOC can be counted as a minority, and they're about the only company that we know of on the minority side that has done $700,000 worth of asphalt on a project, then then that asphalt should have been on the WBE side, because they'd be the only one I know from a capability standard for MBEs that could perform that amount of work.
What does the asphalt look like? The reason I asked in the beginning how many different locations, being 6 locations. So we're talking about asphalt spread it out over 6 different locations. Am I correct?
Yes.
So it wouldn't be a case where the general contractor was just pouring, $1 million worth of asphalt at one time. It would be spread out over 6 different locations. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't matter whether or not it was a parking lot or a street. This is Maven again, is my point.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Ed DeSwanya, I think going back to again the numbers that were achieved on projects, I think apparently were similar to this. The fact is I think what we're seeing is initiatives being taken by the prime contractors to subcontract more work to minority and female-owned companies. Okay, and that's always been just a personal concern of mine as we set these numbers, that we set them at a point that is reasonable, but allows those prime contractors who are successful low bidders the opportunity to work that project as they see fit. And my concern sometimes is that when we see some of these numbers, like part of the asphalt being subbed out, or the prime may decide that rather than doing $600,000 or $400,000 of asphalt to one company, he might decide to do it all to one MBE or WBE. Okay, in other words, I think the initiative of prime contractors to not just meet but exceed goals can be affected by the numbers that we place on these projects.
Well, I also think that you have to understand that the difference between heavy and building, that heavy projects require a certain percentage of self-performance, where building projects do not. And so when you take that into effect, if it is a contractor like a Fahey or a Kissick, particularly a Fahey, they're most likely to perform asphalt as part of their self-performance. So I think we have to we have to be cognizant of that as well.
Okay. Are there any other questions, any more discussions? If there's no more discussions, I'll entertain a motion either to accept the bid of Human Relations, the department, and the board is free to set a go, which is our responsibility.
Mr. Chairman, this is Gabe Perez. I would make a motion that the board accepts HRD recommendations of 13 and 7.
There's a recommendation on the floor by Mr. Perez to accept the board's recommendation of 13 and 7. Is there a second? If there is no second, then we'll go back into discussion. Thank you, Mr. Perez. That'll be set aside. We're not receiving a second. If there's no second to accept the board's recommendation of 13 and 7, I look to the board to set a go as you see fit for availability.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Lohman.
Yes, Mr. Lohman.
I would make a motion to modify the goals to 10 and 7.
There's a recommendation on the floor to modify the goal to 10 and 7 by Mr. Lohman. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, Deswanier, I would second the motion.
The motion to modify the goal to 10 and 7 has been seconded by Mr. Deswanier. We'll call the roll and give us your vote.
Deswanier,
Aye.
Lohman,
Aye.
Mabin,
Aye.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez,
Nay.
I have 4 ayes, 1 nay.
There's 4 ayes and 1 nays. Ayes have it. The goal has been set at 10 and 7. Thank you. Next project, we have 4 ayes and 1 nay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next project is also from the Water Service Department. Mr. Rezu, I think, is the project manager on this one. The project is for water main relocations in areas of White Avenue to Blue Ridge. The estimated cost of the project is $6.2 million. Project number 8002227. The department had recommended goals of 10 and 7. HRD reviewed and recommended goals of 11 and 8. Is Mr. Rizzi on?
Yes, I am. This is Reza from Water Services. I know Bob is smiling to see me back, but anyhow, this is quite an exciting water main project, included quite a bit location along basically White Avenue, several side avenues, Bennington. It is about 18,000 linear foot of water main, and we are participating. Most likely it's going to take maybe 360 days. And there's all kind of activity involved, and majority of this project is going to be on the road. And I would like to talk a little about traffic. If we are talking about traffic, I know we talked about previous project a little bit. Depends on the location of the project, where it's going to take place. If, example, the project we are taking in downtown is require more traffic control and so forth. But majority of this water main is going to be in the residential area. We are completing some of the loop around the project, which they are dead end. And basically, like I said, it's going to take 360 days. And majority of the water main is going to be, we are replacing, there are 6, 8, and 12. And we are looking forward to bid this job hopefully by May, and then we adopted as a 10 and 7. I calculated. I'm working on the water mains basically for 25 years, and I saw too many members, but hopefully everybody has a good memory of me. But anyhow, that's basically is a routine water main replacement. And if there's anything I can answer, please ask me. I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you. Mr.
Well,
Yellen.
I have a question. Why is Bob smiling to see you again?
Because he and I, we go forth and back, and we have the same agreement or understanding. So that's why he's smiling. It's the old face. That's why. And as well as you.
See, Ed, I do like some people.
Sound like some people like you as well.
Well, I miss you guys. That's
so
why.
so far, it's only been one, Ray. So
Yeah.
No. Mr. Yelder.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, pretty much seen the project in similar fashion in terms of scope and availability in certain areas. We did segment the water service reconnection portion of that to on the MBE side, as Rizzo mentioned. Traffic control that's also is a swing scope that could go either with the M or WBE. Historically, there's WSD. One of the project historic was WSD 9168 water main replacement, Mercer to Wayne. The estimated cost of that project was $5 million. The goals were set at 10 and 6. The CUP came back at 10 and 6, and they achieved 11 and 8, primarily in utilities, hauling, landscaping, and concrete. The prime was Leith and Son. Second one, another project, WSD 9184. This was a water main replacement from Bales to Belmont, $4 million estimated cost. The goals were set at 10 and 6. They achieved 14 and 6. The prime again was Leith and Son. So there were, another one was a water main WSD 9171, Highland to Hillcrest. The estimated cost of that project was 4.7. The goals were set at 10 and 6, and they achieved 10 and 11. Blue Nile was the prime. They did not self-perform on this year, but they got participation in concrete supply, hauling, utilities, concrete, asphalt, and landscaping.
Thank you. Board questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Bob Lohman. I don't have a question, but I'm prepared to make a motion.
If you're prepared to make a motion, let's go with it.
I would move that we accept RISA's goals of 10 and 7.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Lohman to accept the department Rizzo's goals of 10 and 7. Is there a second?
Deswanier, second.
It's been moved and seconded by Ed Deswanier. We'll take a vote at this time.
Deswanier,
Aye.
Lohman,
Aye.
Maben,
Aye.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
I have 5 ayes, 0 nays.
The goal has been approved by the board at 10 and 7. Next project.
Mr. Chairman, next project is also from the Water Service Department. It is for odor control services, project number 608-10099. The estimated cost of the project is $1.5 million. It is for the design, supply, transportation, and testing, and installation of odor control chemical storage, equipment, engineering technical service for all wastewater treatment plants and pump station. Department had reckoned a goal of 7 and 3. HRD concurs with the goal of 7 and 3. I believe the project manager is Delia Heffernan. Did I pronounce that correctly? Delia?
Delia Heffernan.
Delia Heffernan, okay.
Water Services. As Mr. Yelder had said, the purpose of this contract will allow the Water Services Department to promptly address any odor concerns from the various wastewater treatment plants and pumping stations in the area. Scope of services would include a company to evaluate each system, recommend cost-effective systems to deal with the odor issues. And these services will also include supply and construction of the agreed upon systems, as well as on-call services to monitor the area odor concerns and any system issues that may occur.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yelder, you have other projects like this?
Mr. Chairman, we only found one other project in our system of similar nature. and maybe the department can speak to, the frequency of how these projects come up. But it was one WSD 1216. It was an odor control phase 1. The prime was Infab company, formerly Foley. The estimated cost of the project was $4.2 million. It was opened back in 2016, closed in 2018. The goals were 18 and 5, and they achieved 18 and 5. Utilization achieved in pipe and installation, supplying of pipe and materials, and concrete work.
Board, questions? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a quick question for Ms. Hefferman.
Okay.
It seems like the majority of this project is supplying $1.2 million in chemicals. Is that correct?
That's a rough estimate based on the assumption that whatever system is supplied would be a chemical dosing system.
Okay.
So I believe that would be an overall longer term a kind of assumption, because that would be a continuous supply of what would be needed to control the odor issues in the area.
Okay, but the point being that the main issue with this project is in fact in chemicals, in supply of materials. Would that be correct?
I think that's a large part of this project. But there are also important aspects of this that would include some sort of specialty engineering or design services that would go along with this, and continual monitoring that would control what services are needed moving forward.
Okay, so would there be a possibility that this project could actually go beyond $1.5 million as you get into it and you determine that more design work, et cetera, is needed?
I think that's a fair assumption, considering how many wastewater treatment plants and pumping stations there are in the area.
Okay.
Though I would think the assumptions of the percentages would not necessarily change because each system at each area would be similar.
Okay. Okay. I'm just asking because we've dealt with projects before that have come before us, and as that project has progressed, the nature of the project has expanded in scope. And so we may have approved the $1.5 million project at certain goals. And then we later learn that the project is now doubled in size or sometimes tripled in size as the owning department has gotten into it further, and there's additional work that's developed from it. So I was just trying to determine if this, so it just seems like there's more possibility with this project than $1.5 million.
Yeah, so I'll jump into this. Is Jeff Martin with KC Water. So we've identified a scope of work for this project that it encompasses certain sites. So if we determined that we would need additional funds or a larger contract amount to include other sites, we would actually do a separate contract. So we'd stay within a reasonable increase on this particular contract. Typically we like to stay within 10% of the original contract amount whenever we put them out. So it may go up some, but it's not going to double.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thanks. Good to see you, Jeff.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair. This is Bob Lohman. I've got a question.
Yes, Bob.
the chemicals delivery systems are also specialty systems, are they not? So that it's not just the chemicals, but also the delivery mechanisms, the systems are specialty products.
Blake Anderson Water Services. They typically are specialty systems. The pumps, tanks, and piping are typically specialty systems. Our assumption is that it'll either be a chemical manufacturer or maybe an engineering firm with a design build or odor control focus that will get this contract. So we anticipate them subbing out most of the mechanical work. And we've had success with subbing out smaller metering pumps, like specialty metering pumps like this, and piping on projects.
Okay. And then I have one further question. Ms. Hepperman, is this your first time in front of the Fairness Board?
Yes, it is.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Did Riza coach you up or did Jeff?
Actually, it's Blake.
Blake did. Well, all right. You did well. Welcome to the Fairness Board.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I have one question of the water department under your pipe installation portion where you segmented out pipe material, 15,000 WDE. Did you intend to segment it that way, or was it intended for that to be the whole thing WDE?
The assumption was that it was going to be a supplier that would provide it, so that's where I think the 60% weighting came from.
Okay. So you figured it'd be a WDE supplier. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Bob Lohman. I have another question again.
Go right ahead, Bob.
So Blake, you had said that you're thinking that this is probably going to be a design company that does this, yet the last project was actually done by Interfab, which is a mechanical contractor. So
the previous project didn't have, that was my project a couple years ago, didn't have a chemical supply component to it. So we're not exactly certain who's going to do this. So one thought is a chemical supplier might do that because they have on-site technical services. Could be a design firm that has, say, a design build group and an odor control group might come together and make a lot of sense here because they could do the construction, but also have the technical services. In general, the thought is whoever has the odor control testing services evaluation component would be kind of the lead prime bidder on this.
well, and they're ultimately responsible for maintaining and managing the equipment and the performance of the systems, right? So there's a service component to
Yes.
this, which would tend to lead me to think that it would not, in fact, be a design person because design firms, engineering firms, typically don't provide the services side of the equipment. So I was concerned about your proposing $50,000 of installation to go to a subcontractor.
For installation of, is that piping or is that equipment?
Yeah, of the equipment itself. I would think that whoever the prime contractor is would want to have responsibility for that, but that's just the way I would look at the job.
I mean, I could definitely see that. We are currently piggybacking on a contract with Springfield Mo, and in that case, it's a chemical company who then subs up. So
yeah.
I could
either way then. Okay.
I see a lot of ways this job could be done.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'm ready for a motion.
So go with it.
I would move to approve HRD recommended goals of 7 and 3.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. DeSwanier to accept HRD's goals 7 and 3. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman. Gabe Perez.
And it's been seconded by Mr. Perez. Thank you, Gabe. So we'll go for a vote. HRD.
Mr. Swanton,
Aye.
Loman,
Aye.
Maben,
Aye.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
I have 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Ayes have it. The goal has been set as established by HRD at 7 and 3. Next project.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next project is also a water main replacement in the areas of State Line Road to Warnell Road, 84th Street to Ward Parkway. The estimated cost of the project is $2.2 million. Project number 800-02225. The project includes the replacement of approximately 8,500 linear feet of 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, and 12-inch water mains in the area of State Line Road to Warnell Road. The department had recommended a goal of 10 and 7. HRD reviewed and recommended a goal of 6 and 5. If there are David McDonald from Water Services, is listed as the project manager on here.
Yeah, this is Melanie Jollitt. I can give a quick summary of this project for Davis. Yeah, so as discussed, this is about 8,500 feet of 4-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, and 12-inch main. Again, part of our water main replacement program, kind of over in the Waldo area is where this project will be taking place. And then you can see we just kind of our typical scope of work here. You know, we found DBE, MBE, WBE, and the pre-construction photos, construction staking and traffic control, pipe and materials, seating and sodding, record drawings, asphalt pavement, and some of the concrete that we have in there.
Thank you. HRD.
So, Mr. Chairman, we went back to the Water Service Department because the material cost for this project is a little bit higher than what we would normally see in water main replacement. It is more than the majority of the cost of the project. So perhaps Water can explain the rationale for the increased cost in materials. But overall, as we've identified previous projects that had similar scopes in terms of water main replacement, WSD 9163 was a water main replacement, North Kansas, North Cypress. Leith and Son was the prime. The goals were set on that one at 10 and 6. They ended up achieving 10.5 and 10.3. Utilization in achieved in hauling, utility line work, as well as concrete. WSD 9202, Glen Arbor to Virginia Avenue. The prime was Brunel. They did self-perform some of the work. The goals were 10 and 6. They ended up achieving 43 and 8. Like I said, they self-performed most of the work, but they did have other work in hauling that they got. And then there was another project, WSD 9173. This was a water main replacement, Winchester to Harvey. The prime was Rodriguez Mechanical. The goals on that project were set at 10 and 6. They ended up achieving 12 and 7. And they got utilization in trucking, hauling, concrete work, and for MS as well as from the WBE side. So when you see material costs is at 6%, if the prime should have subbed out the material cost, that would have been really over $700,000 worth of work for an MWBE. Obviously, and we didn't think that the prime was going to be buying material pipe from 2 or 3 different places. Our rationales were that they would probably buy the material from one supplier, whether an MRW or whether a majority-owned firm. And so that's where the difference you see between our analysis and the department's analysis.
Okay. Thank you. Board questions.
Mabin with a question. Why did you segment 15,000 out of only 40,000 for seat and side, Philip?
Yeah, that's an error on our part. It should have been 40.
Okay.
So that would have been increased the WBE.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. I was waiting for HRD. Were you calculating what that change would be?
Yes, sir. I'm putting it in right here now. Just give me 1 second, please.
Ed, if you would hold for a second and let him make the correction, ask the board to make note that correction will be made on the WBE side.
So it would really just move it up to 6%. It's not a significant change. It would just move it up by 1 percentage point.
Okay, so it'd be 6 and 6. Okay, Mr. Desaulnier.
Mr. Chairman, actually due to the silence that preceded your question to Mr. Yelder, I assume there are no questions, and so I was ready to make a motion, if I may.
Okay. You can make a motion if you would, please.
All right. I was going to move to recommend the Water Department's recommended goals of 10 and 7.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Soignier to accept the Water Department's goal of 10 and 7. Is there a second?
Lohman, second.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman, Perez.
It's been moved and second. I'm going to give this one to Mr. Perez to accept the goals of 10 and 7. Roll call.
Desaulnier,
Aye.
Lohman,
Aye.
Mabin,
Aye.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
I have 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. The goal has been set at 10 and 7 as proposed by the Water Department. Thank you. Next project.
Mr. Chairman, the next project is also from the Water Service Department. It's for water main extension to Niagara Bolleton. The project number is 800,02218. The estimated cost is $921,212. The project includes the extension of approximately 3,200 linear feet of 12-inch water main from the Niagara-built Bolleton plant in Kansas City, Missouri. The department had recommended a goal of 10 and 7. HRD reviewed recommended goal of 10 and 8. I believe the project manager is Davis McDonald.
Yep, this is Melanie Jollitt again, over from Water Services. This project is actually in an area where we had a water main replacement project, and this is an extension for this new bottling plant that's building an expansion down south. And so we've broken this out of the water main replacement portion just so we could get this expedited so that they can get going on their development. So yeah, like it says, it's 3,200 feet of 12-inch water main. It's not a huge project. And then you can see where we found our breakouts. Again, construction photos, staking, traffic control, or is that trucking, pipe materials, seating and sodding record drawings, and asphalt pavement.
Mr. Yelder.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board pretty much identified same areas of participation. Other than just on the WBE side, we had identified the additional record drawing and some of the trucking as well as the asphalt pavement on the WBE side, construction staking and pre-construction photos, but construction staking and the record drawing for WBE. Other than that, there was similar scopes awarded to both M and W. Historically, we've seen water main, this was state line to Kenwood. Prime was Blue Nile. $2.5 million was the estimated cost. The cut was 10 and 5. Final cut was 10 and 5. This closed in 2017. Prime contractor got participation in sodding, seating, asphalt. Next project was project number WSD 9270, Blue Ridge cut off to West Ridge Road, East 38th Terrace. The prime was Haynes and Associates. Estimated cost was $1.1 million. That project is still ongoing, but right now they're getting participation in concrete, soldering, and seeding. Water main 9192, College to James A. Reed. The prime was Leith and Son. Estimated cost $1.9 million. Cup 10 and 6, they end up achieving 12 and 7, and that project closed in 2020. And participation was garnered in soldering, seeding, hauling, as well as concrete.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Board, you have questions?
Mr. Chair,
There are
this
no
is Bob
board
Loman. I'm prepared to make a motion.
Ms. Loman, if you'd make a motion.
I would I would like to make a motion to accept the Water Department's recommendation of 10 and 7.
There's a motion on the floor to accept the Water Department's goals of 10 and 7 by Mr. Loman. Is there a second?
This is Maben. I'll second that.
It's the goal of 10 and 7 has been seconded by Mr. Maben. We'll call for a vote. Roll.
DeSornia,
Aye.
Loman,
Aye.
Maben,
Aye.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays.
So it's been 10 and 7 as approved by the board. Next project.
Mr. Chairman, the next project is also from the Water Service Department. It is for 15th Street Pump Station Upgrade and Sewer Separation Project. The project number is 810000836. The estimated cost of the project is $5.2 million. It's the installation of sanitary and storm sewers, rehabilitation of sanitary sewers and manholes, removal of existing pump station. The department had recommended a goal of 13 and 8. HRD reviewed a recommended goal of 14 and 9. I believe Mr. Willie Williams from the Smart Sewer Program, is he on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Can you give us an assessment of the project?
Yeah, so this project will be, as mentioned, it's a sewer separation project on Truman Road, basically from Bennington to the west, all the way to the KC Southern Railroad to the east. And there's to the north and south some private connections that will be disconnected as well. We'll be leaving the sanitary sewer there and rehabbing that sanitary sewer and some of those lateral connections, and then also installing a storm sewer to collect the storm stormwater now that it's not going to be a combined sewer. We're also in the same process. We are taking off a line 2 diversion structures and taking a pump station offline as well by sending that flow that was previously going to that pump station at 15th Street to the 12th Street pump station, which is just to the north of that pump station via a newly installed gravity line that's just to the east of the tracks down there in that area. With that being said, I mean, I can answer any questions about the project. You guys have any?
Yes, Mr. Yoder, if the board has no questions, Mr. Yoder.
Mr. Malone, that was Mr. Williams asking if there was questions.
I know. And if the board didn't have any questions, was yielding the floor for you.
Okay.
Well, I did have a question.
Sure.
I wonder what the rationale was for breaking up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scopes, pieces of the total. For example, like traffic control, why would you conceive 2 different people for traffic control?
What I potentially incorrectly thought was that the general contractor would do some of those scope items himself or herself, whoever the general is that's selected, and parse out portions of those scope items.
So I'm assuming that all of those different scopes are segmentable.
They can be, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody want to address the rationale on how the board looks at the majority of these projects based upon construction experience? Anybody on the board?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Lohman. I do have one other scope question.
Sure.
Okay.
What is the shoring that it's on the project?
Are you asking what is the shoring?
Shoring, yeah. What needs to be shored on this project?
As we do excavations, we'll be installing storm sewer, so there will need to be shoring for that. Also, the improvements to the existing sanitary sewer, with some of those excavations, we'll need shoring for that as well.
Okay.
And also, there's going to be some shoring that'll be needed as we build the gravity line that's going from the 15th Street pump station to the north to 12th Street pump station and connecting to that manhole. So those are other areas as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Well, I have a comment, since no one will mention to Mr. Williams, that sometimes when you segment things, it makes managing a job a lot more difficulty. And whenever possible, if an entire scope can be segmented for a minority or woman company, it seems to work a little bit better, especially if you look at constructability, asking ourselves whether or not a contractor attempting to build this project would proceed in that manner. And that's the reason I made the distinction.
Thank you for that. Noted.
So this is DeSoignier, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the shoring, specifically, what are we talking about? Are we talking shot creaking something, open excavation shoring, what?
There will be some open excavation shoring, yes. That will be primarily the type of shoring that's done.
Okay. Well, I'm just surprised it's broken out separately, that normally whomever the contractor is who's doing the open excavation is also doing the shoring, hopefully to protect the people he's going to send down in there.
Yes.
And it's unlikely they would sub it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless OSHA has disappeared, which I don't think they have.
No, and well,
we don't. I don't. Are you guys saying? Sorry if I'm misreading it. Are you suggesting that the shoring is broken out? Because the way I'm sorry.
No, the fact that it's broken out is fine. The fact, not in your assessment, but HRD showed that could be a subcontracted scope of work, which no general contractor is going to subcontract shoring to somebody else when their own people are going to be down in the hole that it's shored up. So,
yeah.
You see, Philip, do you see the rationale of that, Philip?
Yes, I see what he's saying.
Unless it was again, a type of situation where you're shoring something utilizing shot creek or some type of another method.
Yes.
Which would be, yes. But, okay,
Not open cut.
all right. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Thanks for the clarifications. I think it's very important. I don't know, Mr. Williams, as Mr. Maven has said, in most instances, green infrastructure, landscape and the trees and things like that. Typically, what you would look at as a contractor would be subbing that out in its entirety to one company. I think that's what Mr. Maven was pointing at. And there's several areas when you have a project like that and the general contractor is subbing it out, he would typically sub out certain portions to only one contractor to perform those works, even if it's in different areas. Okay, any other questions? There are no other questions. Philip, if you would give us your assessment, if there are no other questions.
Yes, sir, Mr. Maven, Mr. Malone, I'm sorry. Historically, we've seen some projects that had similar scopes. This was one was WSD 9112. It was Shoal Creek Pump Station. The prime was infab. The estimated cost of the project was $4.6 million, and they end up achieving 18 and 9. Utilization was in pump station foundation work, masonry walls, installation of utilities, concrete paving, excavation, hauling, and storm piping. Another project was the Northeast Industrial Sewer Separation. The project number WSD 1265. The estimated cost of that project was $5 million. The goals were 13 and 6, looks like 13 and 8. They ended up achieving 26 and 17. The prime was Rodriguez Mechanical. They obtained utilization in concrete, hauling, trucking, erosion control, sealing, landscaping, traffic control, asphalt, paving. So in terms of our analysis, we pretty much did not break up any of the scopes. We assigned or recommended scopes in some of those areas for either the entire scope for the M or WBE. The open cut point repair, we recommended for MBE at least. Traffic control, we segmented that for recommended for WBE. The asphalt we recommended on the WBE side, as well as the force main pump station abatement on the WBE side. So we came up with a recommendation of 14 and 9.
Thank you, Mr. Yelvin. Any additional questions from the board? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Lohman.
Yes.
I would like to modify HRD's recommended goals by eliminating shoring from the subcontracting section to modify the goal to 13 and 9.
Okay. 13 and 9. Is there a second of the modified goal for HRD's 13 and 9? Do I have a second?
I would second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
And second by Mr. Deswanier at 13 and 9. Roll.
Deswanier,
Aye.
Lohman,
Aye.
Maven,
Aye.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
I have 5 ayes, 0 nays.
Aye, 7. The goal has been modified by the board to 13 and 9. Next project.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, the next project is also from the Public Works Department. Sorry, the project is.
Did we hold on that last project?
Pardon me? 13 and 9.
We modified the goals, but did we? Maybe I'm just having a.
You did vote on it, Mr. Maven.
Okay.
And Joe, you may be thinking about whether the dollars is exact. It may not have been, but that's where the goal was set. Is that what set the question? When he did the change, did it come out to that? Not necessarily, and perhaps maybe it did, but that's the goal that he put on the floor.
Yeah, Joe. So I took the 30,375 on shoring assigned to the minority and subtracted that from the total of 718,284. And when you divided that by the total contract amount, it's 13% versus 14%.
Thank you.
Next project.
Mr. Chairman, the next project is from the Public Works Department. It is for Gregory and Ward Parkway signal upgrade. The estimated cost of the project is $468,889. The project number is 89004804. The department had recommended a goal of 10 and 6. HRD review recommended a goal of 13 and 8. Someone from Public Works here?
Yes, Charles Thomas. Are you hear me?
Would you like to give us your assessment of the project?
Hello?
Yes, would you like to give us your assessment of the project?
So the project is for replacing the signal at Gregory and Ward Parkway. We'll be removing all the existing signal poles and bases and equipment that's out there and installing new bases, new signal poles, replacing the 88 curb ramps and installing new radar detection equipment, signal controllers, PTZ cameras, and street name signs. This project is pretty much identical in scope and contract size as the one we did at 63rd and Ward Parkway, which is ongoing. We came to the board a year ago with the 63rd and Ward Parkway project with our estimate at about $471,000, and the board approved for that project 10 and 6. Our recommendation for this project is 10 and 6 to remain consistent with what the board had previously approved for the 63rd and Ward Parkway project.
Is that project completed?
That project is currently ongoing. I think it's about 6 to 8 weeks into it, so it's not too far into that project.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yelder.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so we looked at the similar scopes at least. We recommended the recommended participation in standard signal wire street signal of pedestrian heads. Also on the WBE side, we recommended goals, utilization at least on the signage as well as the traffic control. Historically, we found similar projects, PW 2015 89004324. This was upgrades of traffic signal modification at 39th and Cleaver Boulevard. The prime was mega. The contract amount was $507,000. The goals were 13 and 8. They achieved 14 and 8. Utilization was in concrete work, electrical traffic signals, and concrete work as well. PW 2015-027, traffic signal modification. The prime was marked 1 electric. The estimated contract was $416,000. That project closed in 2017. The goals were 14 and 9. They ended up achieving 18 and 13. Utilization was in supplies, labor, concrete work, traffic signal control. So we were recommending 13% MBE and 8% WBE.
Thank you. Board, questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is Bob Lohman. So,
yes,
Philip, typically on these kind of jobs, isn't it an electrical contractor that would do this work?
So yes, the 3 projects that we looked at, Mark 1 was an electrical contractor that did 2 of those, and Mega was a contractor that did the other one. So I don't know if electricity is Mega's forte or not in terms of what they primarily do. I think they mostly act as a general contractor in a lot of areas. And that may be why the participation was a little bit higher, because the goals are 13 and 8. They end up achieving 14 and 8. So they got utilization in concrete work, traffic signal supplies, and hauling. So that may explain why the increase was a little bit more on their side.
Yeah, 'cause it would seem to me that the electrical is the predominant equipment and is the higher priority of the equipment, and that electrical contractor would do the work and would sub out the street portions of it, which would modify the way I'd look at the goals.
So you're right. If had we looked at the ADA ramps, that maybe was a non-electrical scope of work, perhaps that would have been definitely could offset the signal pedestrian heads, if that's how you looking at it. That would offset those two areas there. The concrete basin would, if you could say that, maybe a non-electrical scope. So that's availability. Yeah, I believe as we looked at it throughout the project, where if the electrical contractor decided to perform all the electrical related scopes, there are other areas that they definitely could get utilization in, and then we have strong availability in the ramps, traffic control, street signs, the detection system, those types of things. The traffic signal control equipment, as you're looking at it, would probably be a scope that an electrical contractor, if that's who won the job, would probably self-perform.
That answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just so, Philip, so you mentioned the concrete bases as possibilities for being subbed out by an electrical prime. You've also got remove and replace ADA ramps as an item that could be subbed out to either an MBE or a WBE. Correct?
Yes.
Since you
Yes, sir.
indicate availability.
Yes,
and
sir.
in addition to that, you've got trucking, which isn't broken out in here, but which you mentioned was used on other projects to meet goals. Am I right?
Yes, and one of the areas they use MBE for like trucking, electrical supplies, concrete work. Concrete work seems to have been consistent in all of the projects we have looked at historically. And I don't know if it was all for AD. I don't know if ADA ramps was included in those, or if it was just building the base for maybe the poles to stand on. I'm not 100% sure, but they did identify concrete work, traffic signal supplies, some trucking, and some upgrades in terms of the on the labor side. So those areas have been consistent.
Okay.
And perhaps Public Works can kind of maybe speak to the issue about the ADA ramps. Is that something that's always you see in these types of things when you go in to do this upgrade to signal locations?
It's something that we typically see that the contractors do sub out, because a lot of our contractors that we get are the electrical contractors, and the ADA is such a specialized installation to meet all the requirements that they tend to sub that out to somebody else.
Are there any other questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman, this is Perez.
Mr. Perez.
Yeah, I mean, to Mr. Loman's point that this will probably go to an electrical contractor, but I mean, if you just do the math, you just take those scopes, concrete, traffic control, other items, we're almost, I don't know how to track 90, we're almost close, probably close to 20% total, just without even touching the electrical. Just a quick math.
Basically, we're 8%. If you replace those scopes with the just slightly a little bit less, but basically about where our HRD is at, we'll be somewhere around 12 and 8.
Yes, sir.
Somebody working an adding machine here?
Yeah, I think so. I figure out what they're looking at is with its change.
I haven't
So
seen
at the-
anybody do this. Tape out.
At this point, I'll entertain a motion to accept HRD's recommendation, the department's recommendation, or to modify the goals. It's in your hands, board.
Mr. Chair.
I'm waiting for
Mr. Perez, you were,
Excuse me.
Mr. Mason?
I move to modify the department and HRD's goal setting to 12 and 8.
There's a motion on the floor to modify HRD's goals to 12 and 8. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And who is that?
That is Mr. DeSwanier.
Okay. I know who you were, just for the records. It's been moved and seconded by Mr. Maven to modify the goals to 12 and 8, and seconded by Mr. DeSwanier. Call the roll.
DeSwanier,
Aye.
Lohman,
Aye.
Maven,
Aye.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez.
Aye.
I have 5 ayes, 0 nays.
5 ayes, 0 nays. Ayes have it. The goal has been modified by the board to 12 and 8. Next project.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it over to Dion Lewis in our office. The next project is from one of the statutory agencies. It's a Community Builders of Kansas City. It's for the office at Overlook, and I believe Dion and some of the developer team members are on the phone. So,
okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members. This is Dion from HRD to present today's project for TIF. As Mr. Yoder has stated, it is called the Office at Overlook. The proposed budget is $20,529,440. The developer's recommendation came in at 11% MBE and 9% WBE. HRD's recommendation came in at 14% MBE and 11% WBE. And I believe I have Mr. Emmett Pearson and Bob on the phone to represent for community builders. You can take the floor.
Good afternoon. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Emmett Pearson, President, CEO of Community Builders of Kansas City. I'm joined today with my colleague, Bob Lanecamp, Chief Development Officer. This project encompasses the redevelopment of 11 acres east of Prospect Avenue, with the first phase being a 60,000 square foot office building. Our architect and our entire team is on the line for any technical questions that you may have, but we are looking to get started. This project is one of only a few Class A office space that are actually east of Troost, and in this case, Prospect Avenue. The last one being the project that we developed in 2004. So I'll turn it over to Bob if he has anything to add. If not, we definitely entertain your questions.
Thank you, Emmett. I guess the only addition I would make is included in this project, the city council has approved $5 million worth of CCED funding that we'll be able to use to start the process of clearing the blight and doing some just sort of preliminary grading to get the site ready for development. So that'll be the first phase of what you'll see. And then, as Emmett mentioned, subsequent to that then would be the development of the actual first office building. I think we'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Chairman Perez, I wonder if we could get a better description of the location. 11 acres east of Prospect. Can you be a little more specific?
Yes, and our architects are also on the line and could put up a visual. This will be on the south side of Swope Parkway, basically running from College Avenue east over to Chestnut. So if you can visualize where Bruce Watkins and Prospect cross Brush Creek, we are just to the east of that on the south side of Brush Creek.
Okay, that helps a bunch.
Does that help?
And,
Yes,
and if
sir.
you're a longtime Kansas City resident, it's the site of the old Zion Grove Missionary Baptist Church, as well as an old shopping center that used to be by right, if you are an older guy like myself.
Well, I qualify as an older guy, so. Okay.
I've got a question or a comment. I don't know which. This is Maben. When I look at the breakdown, HRD has did their goal assessment based on entire scopes. But I noticed that Emmett, your assessment, divides 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different scopes. Do you really think a builder would have 2 people doing the exterior panels? Trucking and hauling, huge deal for both minorities and women. It just appears to me that you probably want to consider that all of that would be subbed out. And is there some rationale to why you broke it down in this manner?
Commissioner Maven, I will defer to our Turner team that I believe is on the call or on the teams for them to get a little bit deeper on that.
Hi, good morning. It's Erin Elder with Turner Construction, a senior project manager here. Quite often, we do full packages, but it gives us some more options with suppliers and installers to break up those packages just to have more visibility towards those goals. It is not a set direction at this point, but it does give us options when we start breaking those packages up. Does that help?
Thank you.
Yep.
I would make a comment, Perez. I'm not sure I follow you on breaking up the packages. Obviously, one, I'm thrilled to be talking about vertical construction instead of all this trench work we were talking about earlier. But to make it attractive to MBs and WBs, obviously, the more broken up, the less attractive it is to truly attract qualified MB and WB. So I would encourage you to take a long look at full packages. We have capacity in a lot of these areas, and I think folks would be excited to look at your project if it was of significant size, would certainly affect their interest in the work.
Understood, and I appreciate that feedback. Thanks.
Dion, do you have anything else to add?
No, I can go into my assessment for HRD. Pretty much, there's about 50 scopes that was provided with this project. And as many have already made mention to, we provided a recommendation with MNWBE participation with the full amount for the scopes. Seeing availability in scopes such as site clearing and grading, trucking and hauling, site utilities, masonry, painting, framing and drywall, and also HVAC for MBEs. For WBEs, we're looking at availability through fencing, dumpster cleaning, general requirements, landscaping, carpentry, flooring, I believe tile, roofing, I think plumbing for WBE, which led us to that 14% MBE and 11% WBE evaluation. So that puts, as far as the budget is concerned, that's about $2.8 million roughly for MBE and about $2.3 million roughly for WBE out of the $20.5 million total budget. So HRDC needs funds of availability, and that was our proposed recommendation. Turn over to the chair, Mr. Chairman, if anybody else has any questions.
Thank you, Dion. Board, do you have questions of Dion or the developers? So questions from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm getting old and slow.
That's all
right. Just have a question of Philip. I noticed that on structural steel, you list availability both under MBE and WBE. Is that a supply item?
Dion, you want to address that?
I don't believe it is a supply item. Is that, I guess I can refer back to, I think that was a straight up construction item, but I'll revert back to Emmett and Bob with that. Is that a supply item or is that more so of
a? Commissioner, I am not aware of an MBE that does structural steel to this degree, but I would defer to my Turner team that's on the call.
I was trying to pull up my list. I'm not sure what number you're looking at. There is some miscellaneous steel and metals, and we have some companies on our list that typically provide that. But for the full structural steel package, that's correct. We wouldn't anticipate we'd have any participation.
Okay. Well, and see, that's what throws me off when I look at this list. And I look at, for example, the structural steel at almost $1.9 million, and there being availability listed under both MBE and WBE. And it gets my mind, and I don't know about other board members' minds, working in terms of who's out there who could possibly participate on something like that. So all I'm saying is if there's some question in HRD's minds as to whether or not there is availability, then by all means just leave it off rather than list it, because it doesn't help us.
Yeah, I believe I have it on there because regardless if it was the actual construction part or the materials part, we had individuals in the system that could provide that services. So from a material standpoint, we definitely had M or WBEs in the system that could provide materials for that portion of the scope.
And you are ready, ready to provide information from your record that shows that there is availability for WBE on the supply side of the structural steel? You do have that in your record? You got availability on here. Yes, go right ahead, Mr.
Chairman. This is Perez. I mean,
Perez,
the city has 9 certified structural steel companies in their database. I don't know what structural steel specifically means in this project. It's a loose interpretation, but I mean, it looks like we have capacity. There's a couple of these. Jill, maybe I think we still have somebody in elevators, which we don't show as availability. There's several of these that I'm going through that it looks like we have availability, and it's just not listed.
So some of the ones that we identified, Mr. Chair, was like Blue Springs Beam Service is a WBE company, Contractor Service Corporation of America, Heartland Fabrication and Mechanics is an MBE, Premier Mechanical Products is another WBE that provides steel-related services.
Okay, that's what we wanted to hear.
The supply side, manufacturing, like, but I'm talking about erection.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm thinking.
You don't have any.
And if I could, Commissioners, I mean, you know, we have not seen that as we've done some of our preliminary due diligence. So if there is one, you know, we definitely interested. But we have not, and when I say we, you know, one of the largest contractors in the city, we have not been successful in at this point locating one.
Is this $1.8 million number inclusive of structural fabrication and installation? That's my question.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay.
I guess my question, I could see on the MBE side, the availability for a minority to supply and install and be able to achieve that. I guess what I was looking at is not excluding the supply side. Are there any WBE since you have availability? But it's a moot issue because it's not used to achieve as far as achievement of the goals. But I think some of the concerns is when you put availability on there, that would give me to think that you have done your due diligence to show that there are WBEs who can supply and erect the structural steel. As Mr. DeSwanier said, if you don't have it, just leave it off. This is not a rebuke or scorn. It's just a fact that helps the board when it starts looking at what's available in addition to what's been chosen. That helps the board to make their decision on what goes to achieve, what goes to approve. Are there any other questions on that line? We're open for the board to give us a recommendation for a go or accept the developer's go or the Human Relations Department's go.
Mr. Chair, this is Bob Lohman.
Mr. Lohman.
I would like to modify actually both departments' goals. You know, when I'm looking at HVAC material and controls, it's more likely that we would have a WBE than an MBE provide that. So I'm going to flip HRD's recommendation and make a motion for a goal of 11 and 14.
Okay, Mr. Lohman has set a goal for the Furnace Board of 11% MBE, 14% WBE. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman. This is DeSwanier.
It has been seconded by Mr. DeSwanier. The goal is set at 11 and 14. Zero roll call.
DeSwanier,
Aye.
Bowman,
Aye.
Rabin,
Nay.
McGreevy,
Aye.
Perez.
Nay.
I have 3 ayes, 2 nays.
3 ayes and 2 nays. Ayes have it. Goal has been modified and set at 11 and 14.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes today's presentations, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Yoder.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes all the projects that we had to present to the board today. Staff has sent you all copies of the reports for the month of March, the CUP report, contract utilization plan report, as well as the new firms and renewal firms that were certified. If you want to share, I'll just go over the CUP first. The CUP report for March of 2021. Total CUPs approved were $26,572,000. The goals approved were 10.8% on the MBE side, 11.6 on the WBE side in terms of actual LOIs that we received for overall value on the overall value of $4,183,000 for utilization for M and WBEs on the CUPs that were approved in March. Does any of the board members have any question on those?
I just want to commend you. This is what I've been looking for.
Thank you.
Mr. Yoder, I just have a general question on this.
Yes.
Is there a way on your directory to sort by MBWB and even further, for example, Hispanic MBEs, Hispanic WBEs? Seems
Yes,
like there used to be a function to do
Yeah,
that.
internally we can do that, but I think for the public, they're going to be listed as either MBE or WBE. There's, in terms of trying to separate, say, African American firms and Hispanic, Asian firms of that nature, breaking it down to that level, the public directory does not do that.
Okay. Thank you.
If no other questions on the cup, I'll move to the certification list, Mr. Chair. Is that okay with you? Mr. Chairman?
Am I in the meeting?
You are now.
Okay. I went out, but I'm back.
Okay. Okay, so we just finished the CUP report, Mr. Chairman, and I was getting ready to move to the new and renewal firms for the month of March. Did you have any question on the CUP report?
No, I don't. I just wanted to state that it's very easy to read.
Thank you. And staff has been working on this, trying to tweak it to get it as simplified as possible. On the new and renewed certification for the month of March, we had 3 new MBE firms and 2 new WBE firms. And you can see the number of renewals. And overall, we had 51 firms that were either certified or recertified in the month of March.
Mr. Chair, can I ask Mr. Yelder a question? This is Loman.
Yes, Mr. Loman.
Mr. Yelder, I'm just curious, how many NACE codes or scopes of work did LMG Construction Services get recertified in?
I don't have that in front of me, Mr. Loman. Hold on a sec. Let me look that up if you don't mind.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this is Ed DeSwanier. While Mr. Yelder's looking up the information, can I ask, do we have a representative from City Legal on present at this meeting?
This is Dustin. I'm here.
Great. So you're on.
Yes.
Feel better. Thank you.
We had checked before the meeting got started, Mr. DeSwanier, to make sure that we had people.
That's great.
Bob, the answer to your question is several.
Several?
Maven, I realize this is nitpicking, but HardNet's been around forever, and they're listed as a new MBE.
So, yeah, I'm here. What happened, I believe Mr. Hotneck certification expired, Mr. Maven, and he had to reapply it again. So that's why it shows as a new applicant.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Mr. Loman, your question, I showed 31 certifications, 31 different scopes. Some of them are in the same, some of them are in the same area though. If you look at the next code, some of them in the same next code.
And there's evidence that all 31 scopes of services are being conducted on a regular basis or within the last, whatever, couple of years.
Right. And Mr. Loman, would ask that maybe we have an offline conversation about that. I really hate to discuss a firm certification, on this media platform that we're on.
Okay.
But I don't mind answering your questions though. But I just think we need to perhaps not discuss that here in this public setting.
Okay.
Mr. Yelder, I see Rowan Elevator re-upped. Are there any other elevator companies that are minority or women?
I do not believe so, Mr. Maben. I think that's the only one that we have right now.
Okay.
Joe, I looked that up earlier, and they're the only one listed.
Okay. And some of this, I guess, we just can't get around it. We have all these companies, or do we have companies on the MBE side that list asphalt construction? Is there any breakdown in terms of what level that is? Because I simply don't know of any MBEs that substantially perform substantial asphalt work.
We spent the stamps of Joe. What are you talking about? $500,000 and above?
Say that again.
Are you talking about $500,000 and above is substantial?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Well, and to that, I mean, if you just look up asphalt paving in the directory, you only get about 5 names. But if you look up generic, just asphalt, and you get, 20 or so.
Yeah.
So you have to go through their NACE codes to figure out, because you had mentioned a few, so I went through, and why they're not listed under asphalt paving, I'm not sure.
Mr. Chairman, that completes the report unless there's any other questions on the certified firms.
Are there any other questions on certified firms? If there are no other questions on certified firms, we're going to move on from other business. Is there any other business for this body? If there are no other business, our next meeting date is going to be May the 13th.
Mr. Chair, is there any public comment?
Is there anyone on who would like to have a public comment from the public? Anyone listening and that's not a part of the organizations or HRD have any comments or questions? If there's no public comments or questions, once again, our next meeting is May 13th, 2021. If there are no other questions, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Take care, Bob.